Mazel.
Hello, everyone. My name's James Strong. This is the SIG-Networking Ingress NGINX sub-project, which means we adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. And that means be kind to each other. If you have any issues, please report those to myself, Marco, or the SIG-Network leads. We've got a lot of things to talk about today, specifically how we want to run our meetings for Ingate and Ingress NGINX coming up, and how we want to move forward with a bunch of things. So we've got a lot of questions. Um, I saw that, Elizabeth. I think it's just running in my head now. That's in, as in the letter in gate. It is not. It is the word in. Anyway, let's go ahead and start from the top. Do we have any new members who would like to introduce themselves, talk about their interest in the project, anything from that respect? No? Okay. Um, some of the folks that had action items from last week are not on. I think I have responded to the two. I didn't mark them off, so I will follow up with Marco and Ricardo on the others. Gentile, did you get a chance to review this one that we talked about? Oh yeah, this one. This one's been open for a little while. Did you get a chance to review it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can take a look.
Okay. Awesome. That was just from last week. I did add, so I've added, started adding milestones. So as I see things, as I think them through, I've added 112, 113, and 114 milestones. So if we go look at issues, we can now look at issues with no milestones, ones that I have slated for 114, 112, 113. I think we need to, as we look through issues and pull requests, make sure that we've, at least for all the pull requests, closed out the milestones that are there. That just helps keep us in line. So we don't have any for 112 right now because we have issues with 112 and the release. We'll talk about that a little bit further. But I think this will help us try to gauge like where we need to focus on some things. So as we're reviewing stuff, um, just add a milestone so that when we go to cut a release, we can make sure that we've completed things that are on the milestones. So like this add in JS, we probably need to add this to a milestone because I know some of the stuff that Elizabeth's working on requires the NJS, and we talked about it last 2 weeks ago about having folks test NJS with Ingress NGINX. Um, oh, it is on 113. Okay, so it's already there. So that's good.
Yeah,
Um,
but I didn't notice this pair was open, and I think it's a bit of a dupe of what I was working on.
yeah, I saw that with the core RS stuff, that the core stuff that you're working on. So
Yeah,
yeah, it might stomp on it. I think once we pull that in, you could just do a rebase on it.
yeah, I think
It
I'll do that.
shouldn't be shouldn't stop you or be too terrible. Um, so that's the milestones, thoughts, comments on that one. No? Okay. Easy enough. Uh, we've got a lot of things to talk about, unfortunately. I did a little issue triage before the meeting, so I'm gonna go ahead and walk through some of these questions. I don't know what Shane's asking for here.
To be honest,
Um,
that was on the template for the agenda, like the one that we copy for each day, and I just copied because I assumed it was for this. Yeah, but maybe it's old.
oh, did he what
Yeah, originally it was on that agenda template part.
oh, it was in the template, so that's an old question. Okay, I'm just gonna take a look
Maybe
at it.
I wasn't sure, but
I'll
yeah.
I'll follow up with Shane on it. We don't have marker on here, so I don't know if it's helpful
We
for
don't
us
have.
to have this discussion
Oh yeah,
without
no,
him.
maybe Maybe not.
So I have asked one of my old coworkers who's done, who helps maintain Alpine packages and Alpine security, Ariadne, and she's going to look into it. I asked her on Tuesday, and I haven't followed up. It's one of those things. Really, from the sounds of it, it sounds like it's a Docker buildx and QEMU. I've never tried to pronounce that out loud.
QEMU?
Issue. Yeah, QEMU. Yeah, key. Yeah, I don't know. But Gentile, you said that you were able to get it run on an Azure VM on a very small one. Can you talk a little bit more about like the specific version of QEMU that you used and the Docker buildx that you used?
Yes. I have used an Azure VM instance. Yeah. And I just run cloud build locally.
Okay.
Yeah, it can build successfully in my VM. Yeah. But if we need, we can I can create a new ARM instance to check whether it can build successful.
Okay.
No. So what's happened is that Jinta simulated cloud build locally on Azure VM, but only variation is he's using Docker 125, which is like staple. Everybody else is on 27. He has 25. And Marco's observation is that, and we confirmed it with the logs from the cloud build, that when the builds launch on cloud build, they use 1.20, Docker 1.20. So Marco suggested to Jintao that his downgrade.
Okay. I can try to downgrade my Docker version.
Okay.
And Jintao, don't try ARM VM. It's not for
it
ARM.
needs to be an AMD to force the emulation, because that's the issue. Is our cloud build VMs are only using AMD.
Oh, okay. I know.
And Arno can correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
What's happening?
We're just talking about cloud build and the cloud build setup and how to replicate it. Because they're just AMD virtual machines, right? And
No. So what's happening is you basically get what they call an E2 instance, and that instance could be AMD or Intel, depending on the availability of the instance of the CPU architecture.
Yep.
So it's sometimes a switch between Intel or AMD.
Yeah.
But
I have tested on Intel CPU.
to add to that, Arnaud, the N2 kind of machines, those are only Intel, aren't they?
Yeah, but I don't exactly know which instance type is used for the rebuild. If it's an E2 instance, it's a
E2.
switch.
Okay.
It's an E2, yeah, it's going to be a switch. If it's an N1, yeah, it's out.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I said that because, like, if we think that could be the issue, we could just easily triage it that way.
The problem with that then is that we'd have to put in some other automation to build the manifest. Because if we're going to build them separately, then we have to manually create the manifest, and I don't know if there's precedent for that or what we would have to do to actually do that.
You can manually submit a cloud build declaration to basically test, if that's what you mean.
Because if we build the AMD on a cloud build with an AMD processor, and we build the image on the ARM 64 with an ARM machine, That's going to
Yeah.
generate the 2 SHAs, right? And then when we go to submit them, we'd have to generate the manifest ourselves. And how do we submit that? We'd have to have a separate cloud build instance to submit that manifest to the registry, right? To the staging registry.
Okay, yeah, you have to submit, because basically you generate a manifest as a config for your image, depending on the platform architecture, but the OCI spec allow you to basically have one manifest and config for multiple architecture, and you basically get different blobs based on the CPU.
Yeah, right now the one build takes care of all of that for us.
Oh, okay.
Because it submits both architectures.
Okay, which tooling I use to build?
Our images, just Docker build.
Yeah. Okay, because if you use Docker build X, you can reference multiple architecture on just one line. I think there's a flag for this, and that should do the trick. Unless your dependencies require space to separate them.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to do separate ones. I think we want to figure out the emulation issue.
Because
what do you mean E2 is a switch?
When I say the switch is basically when you trigger a build and you basically Cloud Build will request an E2 instance, and depending on basically the availability of the build pool, you might get either AMD or Intel machine.
Okay, but for x86 64 architecture, that doesn't make any difference. Is that correct?
Yeah, but because the instruction set at the CPU level are different, because I remember we tried AMD just for CI, we tried AMD once and we had issue trying to basically doing cross build for Kubernetes, and we decided to basically stick to Intel.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't want to have to deal with separate machines and building manifests. Okay.
I understand that, but like coming back to the different builds versus one single build topic, are you like, this seems like we have invested a lot of time already in just trying to debug something that is so low level that it might be out of our hands fixing. Are we sure that we want to discard the option of just running different builds and compiling the manifest afterwards?
If someone wants to investigate how to do that in Cloud Build to get the staging repo, I'm not against it, but it doesn't solve that's just a band-aid, because it's been working. That's the issue. So I don't know if we need to update the version of BuildX, because I know it's still on 17. Ricardo's done 18 and he's had no issues. So I don't know if we just need to request a new update. I have an ask out there in the doc because I couldn't remember. If we go down here, when he bumped it to 18, he had no issues. So I don't know if we've updated this in the Cloud Build. I put the request out to Carlos and I can follow up with him. So if it's just a version of Docker and the build kit, then I think that's something that we can control because it's just a pull request into the Cloud Build image. So let's wait another day and let Gentile do his testing on 120. And then I'll follow up with Carlos to see if we can get the build kit version bumped, and then we can test with that cloud build version, and then we can entertain the conversation around doing separate builds, because that also does double our costs.
Okay.
To build the image, so that is also something to think about.
So, Arnaud, so the sequence of events is, with the config as it is right now, the cloud build YAML and everything, it was all working. And then we think that it broke by itself. We're not sure if any change from us broke the build, but we think that it broke by itself. And
Yeah, it's highly possible because we don't have control on Cloudbird. It's a complete managed service and opaque for us. So we don't even know which kernel is used inside those instances. And even the OS used for those, basically for the instance you request every time you trigger a build. So it's possible there might be a kernel upgrade and OS upgrade that basically broke us.
Yeah.
That's a possibility you need to basically consider. I don't see that strange because we saw that more than once. But I do remember we did a bump of the G-Cloud GCB image use, and I don't know if that was if this is like the issue for this.
That was part of it.
So the EC2 that spawns for our cloud builds where it fails, the kernel is 5.x. And and the successful build that Jintao had just now, the variation there is that it's very likely it's a 6.x kernel, and Docker is 1.25, and the cloud build by default makes available a 5.x kernel with Docker 1.20.
Be careful when you say kernel. You have to be careful because there's like the Google kernel and the Linux kernel. Those are basically sometimes two different things because, like, I would say GK has its own kernel.
Yeah.
Basically, whatever they ship a GK node is like a completely different kernel you have to deal with. So you might basically try something on your local machine using basically a kernel version, and you try to use that on the cloud. It's the same kernel version, but two different patch, I would say, chain set, because they have to do patches to provide the possibility to run those images. So, like, again, it's really possible they basically ship it whatever minor version to fix a CV, and that will like break you in the process. My guess is like to basically clear assumption is most likely to just revert the GCB image you used to a like -2 months to see basically if you can fix the version of the GCB image, see what's happening. And if like the issue is like related to like maybe your revert, yeah, you can definitely say it's a GCB, and we can like trying to figure out how to talk to GCP about this.
Okay, the host OS, the EC2 host OS kernel is 5.x, and the GCB image that is being used for all these failures is a 2024 11th month date 10 release.
Okay.
That's
actually
kind of
this is around the time when we did bump it.
Yeah. So you can just I think we should clear if your assumptions here. I would say do a revert, see what's happening, and block you to basically do whatever build you want. And we can start from we can start this way and see what's happening.
Okay.
We did revert, so we tried 3 and all 3 are failing. So earliest version we had was 2024 March image 03 something. The next update is 2024-07.
This one.
And then the one is 2024 11th month 10th.
We need to we this is for everyone. If you've done a test, please add it to the document, because we've got Marco troubleshooting it. We've got Jintao. We've got lots of people working on the issue. We need to keep it in this doc so that people know what they've tested and what they've tried. So I would
if you want, I can show you the failed builds after this call, maybe an hour later.
Yeah, can you put that in this doc? And basically, I would like we can like try to gather information in different testing and see what's happening. Just put everything you basically try to do in that document, and we can start to basically gather information. It's going to be hard to basically go over. I think the idea basically most like James say, like if we gather the same information, we can remove assumption and basically try to nail down the problem. Because if everyone is like working on this side, it's going to be very difficult to troubleshoot this. Because I feel like, yes, it's a GCP issue, but in order to talk to open a ticket to GCP, I need to basically gather a lot of information and tell them, oh yeah, whatever you did on the kernel or that on the GCP is breaking reals, and we can basically go from that.
We need to know the kernel version that you test on, the Docker version that you use, which includes the build kit version, and then whatever version of QEMU that you use. Because I don't
So,
think
Arnaud, you need the pro link, or you need the
I think the pro link will give me the link to the cloud build. So just put the pro link and we'll see what's up. I will basically try to gather information.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks. That took a lot of time, but it is blocking a lot of issues right now. It's blocking the 112 release, which is annoying. Okay. So Ingate, I've got a couple topics on here, 3 to be exact. And unfortunately, I'm gonna yell at Marco for not joining today. I continued writing. It was Ingate before we decided on Ingate. Anyway, go ahead and read through this. I need to update some things, add your notes. Most of you on the call should have editor rights. If you don't, just ping me. But this kind of just runs through like what we've talked about previously. There's nothing I think controversial on here. I do want us to make sure that we failed miserably on using a GitHub project. I created a new project in Ingate. I would like for us to actually make sure that we use the project and we're tracking like who's working on what when we decide to actually start putting in tasks. Standard features only, so that's v1.3 now, I think. Nothing experimental. We do not want to work with cross namespaces because we know that's caused us issues in the past. That's probably something we'll have to discuss anyway, because as we're actually programming this, we might need to take this into account. This really is all kinds of sub bullet points of the first one. I know there was 2 questions about NGINX data plane, but it's really from the same person. We've decided that Go ahead.
I have a question. Do we will not support cross namespace?
Are you saying we want to keep it because we already supported it in Ingress NGINX?
Okay.
Is that the topic you're bringing up?
Okay. Because the gateway API can support reference grant, yeah, and I think cross namespace will be a common usage. So I think maybe we can discuss about this.
Okay. With reference grants and the broken out RBAC model that Gateway has, probably makes it a little easier. I know we're a little queasy about it because of some of the security issues that have come up. So yeah, I can highlight that one and we can, not the words. We will leave that up, that topic for discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. This was before we even started investigating things. NJS for scripting, right? We don't want to support Lua. We want to continue using upstream tools. NGINX data plane. One person has asked us why NGINX. We have a lot of code that can be reused. We've been working a lot on crossplane right now, which probably is a sub point of this one. Go control plane for Ingress and Gateway. I just wanted to make it explicit, putting that on here, because some people quibbed and joked about Rust. And I just want to make sure that we continue doing it with Golang. So I have submitted with Rob Scott from Gateway API, kind of like an overview for KubeCon. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
No,
Oh.
no, it was a comment on the no Rust thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, we need to review the annotations. Dumb question. How do we ship Ngate with Ingress NGINX? It's going to be two separate binaries, like two separate projects. So there's no shipping. Ngate and Ingress NGINX will have two different releases. Can you talk a little bit more
Ingate
about
will
that question?
support the Ingress API.
Oh,
Yeah,
as well as
yes, it will.
as well as the Gateway API. So both
Our-
Ingress API and Gateway API functionalities will be available in Ingate.
Yes, because we
Oh.
want to help folks migrate to Gateway API. So part of the other is working with the Ingress to Gateway project, and so you'll say, 80% of your ingresses can be moved to Gateway API, and here's how. The other 20 will still have to be Ingress, and we could support those use cases. So we do need to understand and review like the annotations and the features from Ingress NGINX. Like some of the things we've talked about, the example I continue to use is TLS pass-through. TLS pass-through right now, we're not using NGINX to do it. We're using an implementation in Go. We want to use NGINX to do that. And also, we're not going to provide that in Ingress API. It will be a Gateway API feature. So that's the kind of distinction we need to make when we're moving features over.
Okay, because I was then.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was the impression that basically to simplify data operation, we will basically have a flag in the Helm chart to flip between Ingress and Ingate.
No, there'll be two separate deployments.
Okay.
That's why we talked about like when we're deprecating the support. That's actually the next topic here. One of the topics here.
Jinta, what does that look like? One product like Ingate having features and functionalities of both Ingress API as well as Gateway API.
Oh yeah, we have discussed about this question. We will support both Ingress API and the Gateway API, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the question was, how does it look like, and are we looking at what 2 years of mature production grade quality use case for that? Both?
In my experience, many users using Ingress API, and they try to use Gateway API, but sometimes different implementations will have different features and different support on Gateway API. Sometimes these implementations don't support all the features as they supported in Ingress API. So if users want to achieve some goals, they have to use both Gateway API and Ingress API.
And that's the idea around being able to support both of them. But the thing that we need to make people aware of is that it's not going to be the same. We expose too much of the configuration of NGINX in Ingress NGINX, and we do not want to do that. It's going to be a pure Ingress API implementation. So if you have advanced use cases, those advanced use cases should move to Gateway API. And if they're not supported in Gateway API, this is the engagement that we want to get for the Gateway API community. If there's not a gap open for it, let's open a gap and have the conversation, because we can't continue to support advanced use cases in Ingress API for an API that's not going to get, it's not going to get deprecated, but it's not going to be enhanced, right? The enhancements are going to go to Gateway API, and that's what we want folks to migrate towards. So
yeah, and
we're not going to deprecate. It's not Ingress API is not going to be deprecated. It will still continue to be supported. Ingress NGINX will deprecate functionality. Yeah, you have to walk a very fine line with all of this. Go ahead, Jintel.
Yeah, I think Ingress API is simple enough. If users just want to install some, for example, install some application, they can just use one Ingress API to expose their application on the Kubernetes cluster. But if they want to use the Gateway API, they need to create a Gateway class, Gateway, and create HTTP route to support this.
Yeah, it's going to be a long and hopefully not hard migration, but that's the part of this, is like just trying to understand the use cases for Ingress and how the migration path for users onto Gateway API within Gate. Okay, so a lot of this does need to be updated, since I wrote this probably like 6 months ago, even more than that. So this needs to get updated for the use cases. We've got.
Oh, sorry. I think for the latest version of Gateway API, the gRPC route has been prompted to V1.
Yeah, I'll update it afterwards. I just have some things on here to think about. Obviously, the project is new. How we want to run our test harness. So some of the things that causes issues in the Ingress NGINX right now, right? The releases, we see how difficult sometimes the releases can be. The test harness, we've got 400 plus end-to-end tests. That's a lot of features. Like, these are things that we need to discuss. Image updates, like I know Ricardo doesn't like the test runner. There's lots of things that have just been built up over time that haven't been revamped.
Should we use GitHub Action instead of Cloud Build?
Well, we have to use Cloud Build to get it into the Kubernetes repository. So we did add it. So we technically we build it twice, right? On every PR, we rebuild the NGINX image, then we build the controller, and then we run the end-to-end tests. Yeah. We don't do the end-to-end tests in Cloud Build. We just build the images in Cloud Build and push them to the staging repository. So we do it in both, and this is why this has been causing issues with the build, right? It works locally versus working in GitHub versus working in Cloud Build. So that's, we still have to build it in Cloud Build to get it into the Kubernetes staging repository. We can't change that.
Oh, okay. We don't have any critical to push the image from GitHub Action to the stage repo.
It has been discussed in the past, and they do not want to expand the security surface to GitHub as well. Okay. And Arnold, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the issue is there was like a few security issue with GitHub Action. So if we wanted to grant a GitHub Action to integrate with GCP, that would basically increase a surface attack. We're trying to minimize that and work with GitHub, but it's a slow process to make some kind of improvement. But in the meantime, you can create a GCP account without credit, and we can use your email to put that in the distribution list that would allow you to access to GCP Cloud Building Station. And you can trigger build from there, from your local machine. You just basically you need to make sure you have G-Cloud CLI installed in your machine, and that should do it.
That would be interesting because I was just running the cloud. I was using, when I was doing testing, I was just running the container, the GCP cloud container locally, and I was running the builds in there. But again, right, the underlying host is my machine, so the emulation doesn't really match. That would be interesting. That might be something that we might want to look into for testing, like debugging, to just have direct access to cloud build to run that locally. Some of us might already have that. I think I have that access, but I'm not sure as part of having access to the Ingress project.
So yeah, I think for the moment, we basically, as long as you have access to the staging project, you should be able to trigger GCP build on your own. You don't. You just need a GCP account and the email for it.
I know I have access to that because I can restart builds in Cloud Build.
Exactly.
I think Gentile might. It just depends on who has access to the GCP project. I think Marco has it. But anyway, okay. All right. So please, if you guys have any of the API, Gateway API discussion points or ingate, add them to the doc. If you don't have edit access, ping me. I can update those. Everyone should have commenter access. The community meeting. So we've had this discussion in a couple DMs, and I just wanted to bring it out and ask folks. Maintaining 2 meetings or having a half-baked meeting for each. I'm not sure. I'm on the fence on both of these, of splitting the meeting versus having a split meeting. So having 2 meetings versus 1. Kind of like what we did today, where we just had first half hour was talking about Ingress NGINX, second half hour was talking about Ingate. Open the conversations. I did talk with Gentile very early on about moving this up an hour to 10 a.m. Let me know if anybody else has any issues with that. If we do back to back, then we leave Ingress NGINX at 11 and we do Ingate at 10. I mean, I'm in 5 to 6 hours of meetings usually on Wednesday, Thursdays. So another one is really nothing to me. So yeah, floor is open. Comments, thoughts?
I think there's going to be so much overlap that we can't have 2 distinct meetings. That's my opinion. No.
Fair.
So just stretching, I mean, you said moving up 1 hour, so starting from 10 all the way for 2 hours.
If we're gonna do the one meeting, then maybe like an hour and a half.
Yeah, that sounds more realistic, because distinct meetings, I think there is very little value in that because of the overlap.
Anybody disagree to just moving the meeting up an hour and adding a half hour? I think Marco was okay with the moving it up an hour too, because I think it's still about the same time for him anyway.
You might conflict with other meetings. People willing to attend.
Yeah, there was a calendar. I need to go look at the calendar.
Shall we maybe? Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know SIG-Network is right after us.
Yeah. I was gonna propose like moving this to maybe some more of a midterm discussion, maybe because today there's not many people in here either. So
Also, a separate meetings create some kind of new space for people willing to contribute just to engage, and we're like basically trying to stop the conversation, because if we keep this meeting and you have new people coming, you might get them lost in the process.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, we could try it's a separate meeting, and if we see like we have low attendance and it's not efficient enough, we go back to the same meeting.
That's true too. Maybe in January we try 2 separate meetings and see how it goes. Because I don't think we're gonna do. I mean, I don't plan to do a lot of programming over the Christmas break. Maybe more design discussions and drawing pretty pictures. But yeah. So how's that? How does that sound, everyone? We try January. We try 2 separate meetings, and we do the in-gate meeting at 10.
10 is 1 hour before this one starts, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't think I could attend that, but I also don't want to,
Okay. I can put out there's a tool that we use for trying to gain consensus of meeting times. It's on the SIG Kubernetes contributors on how to set up new meetings. So I can put together a poly and ask, and then we can just leave it open until January. Since I know that Marco's not here, let me do that. I'll put that together as an action item.
Thank you. Like, I if it works for everyone, but only just not for me, I also don't want to, push that. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And that's what they suggest in the Kubernetes contributors is just put together. I think it's poly, but I will. All right. So we only have a few minutes left. I like to drop off like at 55 to prep myself for my next meeting. But Marco was already okay with. So we've got again, we're in a very interesting place with in-gate Ingress NGINX. I think if there's an issue open asking for a new feature, we ask them to implement it. And if they don't, then it doesn't get implemented. Like, we're going to be focusing on bug fixes and the breaks that we have, like with the releases, and programming for in-gate, so that we won't have time as core maintainers to implement feature requests. So we've got this issue here where someone's asking for a new feature. My vote is that we ask them to implement it. We won't have time for it, and we just have a blank statement saying that this one, right, somebody asked for a feature, they've done the implementation, they have passing tests. I say we allow it. These ones are pretty simple, right? This one's an annotation, right? They just added a new annotation. Right, so again, they're migrating away from configuration and server snippets. They want to add it to an annotation. If they've added it as we've asked folks to implement, I think it's fine. So we can get a little bit more granular and take them by case basis. But like stuff like this, I think we should allow folks to continue to implement in Ingress NGINX. So thoughts, considerations?
Yeah, that's actually very much required. For example, information is coming up that we implemented the timeouts, but we missed one of the timeouts, client body. So
I saw that.
They implement it, and we just make sure tests work, documentation is good, and there is no red flag. So, and then if it's all good, then we accept it.
Okay. These ones get a little tricky with the template, because I know we're moving to the crossband templating. So this one again is one of those ones case by case. Like, if they implement it, it has to be able to support it in Crossplane. So that's where this one gets iffy, because we also haven't implemented Crossplane yet, right? We've got the PR open. We're waiting for 112 to get fixed to implement Crossplane in 113. So this one might have to wait. But again, that's kind of the thought process around that, so that I can point folks to the community meeting where we talked about this, and then I can open up an issue or just put something out there like blank statement saying, hey, this is how we're going to operate with feature requests. I think it's reasonable.
Okay. I think we shouldn't say no for every feature request. Yeah, because for now, Ingress NGINX project is still being used for many users, and they will find some user case in their environment, and so they need some new features. If we say no for every feature request, then I think some user will fork this project, or they will choose another project for their environment.
Elizabeth said it best right there. It's not no, it's no, we won't do it. We're not saying no, you can't do it, right? So there's a subtle difference, right? We're not going to implement it as core maintainers. If you want to open a PR and fix it and add it, that's fine.
Yeah. And another one I think is if we add some new feature, we can think about does this can we migrate this feature to Ingate? If we can,
and that's part of the conversation is if it's needed and if the annotations needed or features needed, that's when we have the question about porting it over. So okay, awesome. I think we're all in agreement with that one. Cool. Well, we got through everything. Marco did get back to me. It looks like he was at a company meeting, so that's fine. I'll have him review this. I'll have him review these things, and we can have a discussion in DMs. Okay, awesome. As far as the next meeting, will probably be our last one for the year. I still have it on the calendar for the 19th. I will probably cancel the 2nd, January 2nd. So our first one of the year will be the 16th.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for talking through these things. And we'll continue discussions in Ingress NGINX Dev. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Bye.
Nice day. Bye.